Welcome to the Finishing Touch podcast from Superfici America. I'm your host, Bret Johnson. Each episode, I sit down with experts in the automated finishing industry to talk coatings, try schedules, emerging trends, and practical tips. Whether you're an industry pro or just getting started as a new operator, this podcast has something for you. We're here to share insights, answer questions, and help you stay ahead in the world of automated finishing. Let's get into it. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Bret Johnson from Superfici America. We've been doing the podcast for a little while now, and people are actually listening. So I was roped into doing this, and I'm going to rope somebody in with me as well. We're going to welcome today Bryan Mitchem. He's our lab technician here. He's been here for 6 months or so. He's doing a great job. And today we're going to break down the basics of automated finishing. No degrees, no experience required. Finishing 101. So let's get started.
So Bret, where does finishing start?
Basically, finishing is only going to be as good as the substrate you're putting it on, right? So your prep work is very important, and that really just starts with your whitewood sanding. So proper whitewood sanding of your substrate. Consider if it is wood, right? If it's another substrate, you're going to obviously not call it whitewood sanding. But then you're going to prime the product, and then after priming, you're going to have to sand it again. So your whitewood sanding, typically going to be coarser grits. You're going to be anywhere from 120 to 180, maybe up to 220. And your primer sanding grits are going to be anywhere from like a 280 to a 400. Usually 320 is kind of the industry standard for primer sanding. Then after that, you're going to put on your top coat typically. Some folks will put on 2 primers. Some folks will put on 1 primer, 2 top coats. A lot of times in our world, they're trying to eliminate steps, so they're going to want to do 1 primer and 1 top coat.
Why is sanding critical?
Sanding is very critical for a couple different reasons. For adhesion, number 1, you want to scratch the surface that you're putting the coating on to get some sort of mechanical adhesion. And 2, for the aesthetic of the product. It's going to look much better if you sand it. You're going to look at a part that's sanded and it's not sanded, and you're going to be able to tell a huge difference in the quality of the finish. So.
Not just looks, but feel too.
Absolutely, yep. The look, the feel, yep, absolutely.
All right, it seems like a long process. Is that what I hear about the woodworking finishing? Finishing being the bottleneck of the woodworking industry?
Yeah, typically finishing is the bottleneck of any woodworking shop. Most times I feel like they've automated the rest of the shop before they automate the finishing process. So everything, at the very end of the process is slowing down drastically. So, and in finishing itself, there are actually 3 specific bottlenecks. So you've got your sanding, you've got your spraying, and you've got your drying. So you can solve one of those, but you're still going to have the other 2. You can solve 2, but you're still going to have 1. But solving any of them is greatly going to help your production and your throughput. It's just going to move the bottleneck a little bit downstream to another area. So if you just buy a sprayer, you're still going to be sanding a ton of parts, and you're still going to be waiting on those parts to dry, right? If you just buy an oven, like a batch oven, say, which a lot of folks will do, they're manually spraying and they'll just buy the batch oven. Well, they're not standing around waiting on parts to dry so long, but then they're still manually spraying, they're still manually sanding. So if you can eliminate the manual application of the sanding, the spraying, and the drying, it really speeds up the entire process.
All right, we've used water-based coatings. We've used solvent-based coatings. What's the difference between these, Bret?
So number 1 is the cleanup, really. I mean, what you're going to be cleaning the product up with, what you're going to be flushing with. Water-based is obviously cleaned up with water. Solvent-based is cleaned up with solvent. The good thing about water-based is it's a little bit more environmentally friendly. You're not smelling those solvents. And you're also not purchasing a cleaning solvent, a wash thinner or something to clean your stuff up with. You're actually flushing it out with water. But traditionally in our industry, solvent-borne coatings have been more of the standard. They've honestly look better, or they have in the past. Water's come a long way recently, but 20 years ago, water didn't look anywhere close to what the solvent-borne quality was. That's about it between those 2. And I mean, there's a number of other types of coatings in those that fall under that umbrella of solvent and water. You've got UV coatings, so you've got solvent UV, you've got water UV, you got 100% solids UV. You've got polyurethanes. So then you've got, obviously you got a lot of different stains and stuff too, which can be in water or solvent.
So do you usually pick one and stick with one, or do you use solvent and water-based?
It's situationally dependent. I mean, ideally somebody will go one or the other, but there are situations where a customer will have a certain water-based product for one application and they'll have a solvent-based product for something else. So just knowing the different characteristics of the two, how to work with the two, and the different qualities they're going to have and how you have to apply them a little bit differently. So a real good tip is if you are using water-based and solvent-based, especially, well, in any sort of finishing application, but especially in like an automated sprayer, it's critical that you flush properly. So just for example's sake, if you had water-based coating you're spraying and you need to switch to a solvent and you're going to be using the same pumps, the same guns, the same hoses, you're going to want to flush with water first to clean out the water-based paint, and then you're always going to want to use acetone as a bridge, is a good way to think of it, between water and solvent coatings. So you're going to flush with the water, you're going to flush with acetone, and then you're going to load your solvent-borne product. Obviously you're going to go repeat that step in the opposite direction if you're going from solvent to water. So you'd flush with your solvent, your water, your acetone, whatever it may be, and then you would flush out with water, and then you would load your water-based paint to avoid any contamination. All right, man, so you've been here for a few months now. What has stood out, number one, and what's something critical about the finishing industry that you've learned in your time so far?
I'd say the different type of air guns, air-assisted, airless, HVLP.
Okay.
Would you like to explain those?
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah. So you said airless first. So airless just describes no atomization air at the cap. So atomization air is the air that's introduced at the air cap of the spray gun that's going to help break up the paint and atomize the paint, basically. Okay. So airless uses none of that. It relies on strictly fluid pressure to give you your atomization and your fan patterns. Then in the middle of that, you have what we call air assist. So you've got lower fluid pressures in relation to the airless, and you have some atomization air. So what we would call like a medium amount, basically, for lack of a better word, of atomization air. And then the next one down would be HVLP, which stands for high volume, low pressure. So that low pressure it's referring to is the fluid pressure. So airless, most fluid pressure, air assist, middle fluid pressure, HVLP is your lowest fluid pressure, high volume, low pressure. The high volume is the high volume of paint that's coming out. So the amount of atomization air that's used with the HVLP, though, is the highest out of those three.
Can you give some examples of why you would use one gun versus the other?
Yeah, some coatings, prefer one or the other. I mean, there's a lot of folks like to use HVLP for stain. That's kind of been the industry standard for a while. And then air assist tends to be just kind of middle of the road, really. I mean, it can kind of be your the jack of all trades that can spray, pigmented products, that can spray stains. And then there's some coatings out there that prefer airless technology as well. It just lays it down better, flatter, smoother finish with an airless gun.
Okay. Well, I know keeping your tips clean is important.
Yeah.
What about tip selection?
Yeah, selecting the right tip is huge. Your viscosity of the coating is going to dictate that mainly. And usually there'll be a couple of different tip sizes you can use for a certain viscosity of coating, and you would just choose one or the other. If you want to get a certain aesthetic appearance, right? If you want to you would use a smaller tip if you want to get more natural atomization, through that same orifice size.
All right, mill gauge basics, thickness of paint.
Okay.
How does that affect us?
That affects everything,
Everything.
Right? So we're guided by the coating manufacturer as to, okay, how much coating do we need to put on, right? And there's a million different ways we can get to putting on the right amount of film thickness. But you want to put on the right amount. You don't want to, if you put on too little, you're not going to get a good coating. You're not going to get good coverage. It's not going to flow the way it's supposed to. It's going to look orange peely. It's going to look mottled. If you put on too much, you could have, depending on whether you've got forced drying or not, you're going to get blistering and mud cracking. You could get adhesion issues, delamination issues down the road. So, you know, putting on the right amount of material is critical, and it's usually checked with what we call a wet mill gauge. It's a very basic instrument. You just put it on the product when it's wet, and it literally tells you how much coating is on the product. So, very basic instrument, but it's what we use. We have a lot of them here. There's one there. Throw it here. Look at that. Terrible throw. But yeah, Superfici wet mill gauge. It's even got our phone number on it, so you can call us and harass us if you want. But yeah, we give these out for free. Bryan likes free stuff. Hats. Send Bryan a hat, by the way, if you have a hat with a logo on it. Any logo, he doesn't care. He'll wear anything, trust me. So the way you use it is, you've got different numbers here. One wet mill is actually 1/1000th of an inch, right? So what you do is you put it into the wet coating, and the last one that it touches is the amount of material that you have. So say that you had paint on 1 through 5, but not on 6, it'd be a 5 wet mill coat.
Awesome. And if we need one of these, we can just contact marketing at superficiamerica.com. All right, last thing is importance of maintenance schedule and routines on these things. Keeping these things breathing friendly is very good for the paint.
Yeah, and the longevity of the machine too. I mean,
Yes.
we've got customers out there that really maintain their equipment, right? Doing the maintenance schedules, cleaning the machine, right? We're spraying paint, so obviously if you don't clean it over a long period of time, it's gonna start to get really dirty and you're gonna have issues. So we got customers that have 20-year-old machines that look brand new, and we have customers that have brand new machines that look 20 years old. So it really does, you know, it's critical that you take care of them. And our maintenance calendar that we have worked into our software is huge, because it'll pop up, you know, when something needs attention, right? They're all on timers. So say every 7 days something needs to be checked. Well, every 7 days you're going to get a maintenance reminder that you need to check that item. And then when you've completed the work, you click the button that says that we've done this work. So
It's been easy to keep up with these machines, given the lights that they give you whenever you need to change things. You're always staying on top of maintenance whenever it tells you that paper needs to be changed or the filters need to be changed.
So why does automation matter in finishing? It's a few things. It's huge. I mean, you're going to get more production, more throughput. You're going to get more consistency. If you do it right, you're going to get better quality. It's the way of the future, unfortunately. Fortunately. But it's hard to find finishers, it's hard to find good finishers. And unfortunately, my generation and the generation behind us aren't taking up that trade. So also a lot of mundane tasks in finishing. There's a lot of, sanding, is, wear and tear on the elbow, on the shoulder, same with spraying. Just putting people in a more advantageous position for themselves to be able to operate a machine instead of sanding or spraying parts all day long is huge. And then automating the drying, just not standing around waiting on parts to dry all day long, waiting on paint to dry. Literally, if you can speed that up and continue to process those parts, it's just going to speed up your production tremendously.
The consistency pays off.
Yeah, it's going to do the same thing all day long, for better or for worse. It's going to not get tired in the afternoon and slow down or start applying the product differently, right? So then you don't have 20 different people spraying the same stain at 20 different colors. You're going to get the same thing every time, and that's huge. So.
Are there lines that have everything integrated in it?
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, so we can complicate it as much as you want. We can do material handling. We can do what's called line supervisor, where we monitor and can operate all the machines independently from one screen, from one central location. And it will, if it's a closed loop line, obviously it'll go around, say there's 6 passes per door, it'll keep track of where it's at. It'll go around all 6 times before it exits the line. Yeah, and then we also can remote into these lines, and for service and support, we can diagnose, troubleshoot issues, and also help figure out things and operate the line remotely. So, yeah, we can do that, and we can also just sell somebody a standalone sprayer or batch of, and if they're not ready to commit to that kind of investment. All right, guys, thanks for watching. In a future episode, we're going to address how automated finishing specifically troubleshoots bottlenecks in your production. So if you're ready to take your finishing to the next step, please contact your local Superfici America sales rep, visit our website, a lot of tutorial videos on there, and go check out our social media platforms and like us and follow us on YouTube. Until next time, this is the Finishing Touch Podcast, helping you finish better.